For years, toxicologists from all around the world have convened to discuss the latest in the field. And for the first time, the SOT annual meeting and Tox Expo is going to be completely virtual. Not only will you be able to get the latest in your field from the comfort of your home, but there are also a few fun events taking place that you can be a part of. Stay tuned as we kick off episode 1, highlighting organizations and experts from around the world that are leading in the field of toxicology. SOT TV starts right now. Strong science communication is more crucial now than ever. The SOT has partnered with the Alan Alda Center for Communicating Science to help further the communication skills of scientists everywhere. Let's take a closer look at this partnership and what kind of impact it will have.
The opportunity to blend art and science to help scientists communicate more effectively is a remarkable one. When we bring art to science communication through the form of improvisational theater, we use improv to help people connect. What it does is it engenders a deeper sense of connection and trust. And it helps scientists who are talking to different audiences or writing to them be more creative, responsive, and caring in how they communicate.
We expect this program and this collaboration with the Alda Center, along with several other SOT activities in science communication, to lead to a broad and effective cohort of toxicologists within SOT that are communicating the toxicological sciences effectively beyond their peers to broader non-scientist communities, other scientists outside of toxicology. And in so doing, we want to build support for our science, promote the understanding of toxicology and its wider relevance to society, and last but not least, to encourage more informed science-based decision-making at all levels, from government to communities to individuals, even within their own companies and their own work environments.
Great communication empowers scientists because it reminds us that our work is valuable and important and that people need what we do. It's so easy to forget the impact of your work when you're standing at a bench, writing a grant. When you communicate effectively with people outside of your area, it really helps energize you to remember that your work will have real-world, tangible impacts somewhere down the line. We are so excited, and I know Alan Alda is as well, to launch this partnership with SOT. Work in toxicology has such immediate relevance to society. It's about our health and well-being. I'm excited that we're going to have the chance to work together with groups of people who are members of SOT.
The Society of Toxicology is one of the key organizations that defines the wider relevance of toxicology to society. And our ability to communicate that science effectively depends on our members. And so that's why having this as a pillar of our strategic plan is critical for us to achieve our mission as a society.
The field of toxicology is ever evolving, and there are so many organizations around the world that are breaking barriers in the field. Let's take a closer look at the Research Institute for Fragrance Materials, or RIFM, where they help to ensure the safety of fragrances through science and global partnerships.
Scent plays a significant role in our lives. Fragrances enhance products that we enjoy every day, from soaps, shampoos, and other personal care products to household cleaners and air fresheners. The Research Institute for Fragrance Materials, RIFM, supports the safe use of life-enriching fragrance ingredients through collaborations with industry, academic and scientific communities, governmental agencies, and regulatory bodies. Because RIFM is committed to transparency and global impact, we offer our published fragrance ingredient safety assessments and scientific research free of charge on a public platform. Fragrance ingredient safety requires an international effort through sound risk assessment using the best available science and through products that support the health and well-being of consumers and the planet. Reach out to us and see how you can get involved in our important work.
Next, let's go to Wisconsin to learn about the Wisconsin Poison Center. It is one of 55 nationally accredited poison centers and is an important resource in Wisconsin's public health and emergency preparedness system.
Here at the Poison Center, primarily I think what we do is help people when something happens. So their child gets into something and eats something that they shouldn't. Someone intentionally takes something to harm themselves. So we're really here for the public and then also for hospitals once patients are there in the emergency rooms with those sorts of exposures.
We are providing expert consultation and care for all of the state of Wisconsin. And whether it's a mom who's worried about their child at home calling us or a physician who needs our help managing a case, that's what we're here for.
We manage the Poison Center hotline, which is a 24/7 hotline where people that are healthcare professionals or members of the public can call us and ask us questions about potentially toxic exposures or information about poisons or other toxins.
Now, Christy Willett from the University of Mississippi joins us in studio. Hi, Christy. Thanks for joining us.
Great. It's great to be here.
Now, can you break down cannabinoids for us? What are they?
Sure. Cannabinoids are a class of compounds that are structurally similar and are present in the cannabis plant. So two of the more famous ones are tetrahydrocannabinol or THC and cannabidiol or CBD. So THC is the psychoactive compound that's in marijuana, and its use has been legalized either recreationally or medically in many states. And CBD is, in the form of Epidiolex, is an approved drug for childhood drug-resistant epilepsy. And CBD is also broadly available on the consumer market.
What have you come to learn through your research about cannabinoids, and how can we use them?
So our laboratory does research on both the therapeutic efficacy of cannabinoids, for example, in their ability to control seizure activity. But particularly relevant to SOT, we study the potential developmental toxicology of cannabinoid exposure. We're concerned that the broader availability of cannabinoids will result in humans being exposed during pregnancy, and we don't know or understand the long-term impacts of what that exposure will be. So we, using the zebrafish model, have found that this developmental exposure to either CBD or THC does actually have potential effects into adulthood, especially on things like reproduction and behavior.
Lastly, what will you be covering about cannabinoids in your presentation?
So I have two presentations in this sessions on THC and CBD respectively. And so I'll be describing how we use the zebrafish to better understand the complicated underlying molecular mechanisms of both the developmental acute sort of toxicities we see, but then also the developmental basis of the adult diseases that we see from that early life cannabinoid exposure.
Thanks again for joining us, Christy.
Thank you.
We're now joined by Dory Garmalick from the National Institute of Environmental Sciences. Dory, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
What relation is there between COVID-19 and toxicology?
So in our efforts to combat SARS-CoV-2, we need to learn everything we can about the virus, from sequencing its genome to understanding what will interfere with its replication or its spread. Toxicology relates because we understand that an organism's response to infectious disease, neoplasia, other threats depend on how well we can mount an immune response, and that these responses can be modified by things like chronic low-level exposures to chemical or physical factors, other things in the environment. As an immunotoxicologist, I believe that chronic low-level exposure to background levels of chemicals or immune suppression can lead to an increased burden of disease. That can occur on an individual basis, so for example, with things like substance abuse, or it can occur on a population level. So for example, there's a large body of evidence that there have been increased infections or altered vaccine responses following exposure to PCBs or some perfluorinated compounds in the environment. And the immune system can be uniquely sensitive to persistent environmental pollutants.
How can toxicologists help with COVID-19?
So as toxicologists, we have a role in understanding the safety of novel therapeutics, and this includes both small molecules and biologics, such as the mRNA vaccines that have been recently approved to fight the pandemic. And on an environmental side, we seek to understand how exogenous stressors alter the immune response. From the perspective of an immunotoxicologist, this can mean either augmentation of the immune response, which we understand as allergy or autoimmunity, or immune suppression. It's interesting that there's a developing body of literature that suggests that in patients with so-called long COVID who have persistent symptoms following infection, that this may be due to autoimmune-like phenomenon. And it'll be interesting if this is a question that perhaps toxicologists can tease out to sort out whether there's a genetic or environmental component to this.
Where are you with the COVID-19 research? First phase, looking at susceptibilities with age and gender ethnicity. Second phase, exposure to air pollution, cigarette smoke. Where are you?
Yep. So our work is examining the role of susceptibility factors in the immune response to SARS-CoV-2. And in the first phase, we're looking at how intrinsic variation in susceptibility factors such as age, gender, and ethnicity affect the in vitro immune responses to viral antigens. So we're doing this using human peripheral blood leukocytes that we're obtaining from a large number of donors. And we're going to investigate immune function in the cells obtained from this peripheral blood. So in the second phase of our own work, we're going to be conducting in vitro toxicology studies to assess how exposures to things like polyaromatic hydrocarbons, which can be found in environmental tobacco smoke, domestic and wildfires, vehicle exhaust, and other air pollution, can modulate the immune response to viral peptides. There's a large body of data from in vivo studies, including mixtures work ongoing here at the NIEHS, that's shown that these compounds are immunosuppressive and can affect disease resistance. So we'll be using these compounds in our studies, and we plan to begin that work, the second phase, sort of late in 2021.
Dory, thanks so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you very much. I really enjoyed speaking with you.
Next, we take a closer look at ImmunoSearch, a company located in the perfume development capital of France that collaborates with many of the local perfume developers. It runs more than 300 tests per year on cosmetic and perfume ingredients for 15 to 20 different companies and develops alternatives to the traditional animal model in toxicology testing.
What's unique in the Sensis assay is that you can test everything you can put on the skin, which is not doable in assay looking at cells in suspension, because something which is oils, for example, will be very difficult to dissolve in water. And the second main advantage of the Sensis assay is that it is quantitative.
The last organization we'll be highlighting today is in New York City. The Institute for Exposomic Research is an innovative cross-disciplinary research program dedicated to measuring environmental factors and link them to collected health data using life course-informed models. Let's go ahead and hear about the promise of the exposome.
Human health is a complex puzzle with thousands of pieces representing infections, relationships with our family and community, the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the food we eat. This also includes our genes. They interact with all the environmental factors we experience over time. With only the genetic pieces, we can miss the whole picture. The exposome represents all the non-genetic pieces of this puzzle, but the pieces fit differently over time. What scientists call the exposome can complete this puzzle. The exposome is the totality of environmental exposures over the course of our lives tied to understanding the effects on our bodies as we go through life. We have finally begun to take the steps towards being able to more comprehensively measure environmental exposures, and we are poised to multiply this progress exponentially.
Well, that's it for us today, but you can access everything from SOT TV on demand through the SOT TV YouTube channel. Make sure to check back throughout the meeting as we'll have more exclusive material on everything SOT. See you soon.